Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am going to talk about the books I read in May. A lot of what I read in May and April actually were BookTube prize books. I am not going to talk about them at length here because I just posted a video with my kind of full reviews on those books. So I read Crying in H Mart, Nuclear Folly, A World on the Wing, Facing the Mountain, The Black Church, and A Swim in a Pond in the Rain. And I will link to the video where I review those 6 books. Each review is about, 5 to 6, 7 minutes. They're all in one video and I've timestamped it. So if you want my thoughts on one specific book, that's where you can find those. So I'm only going to talk about the other books I read in May. And I am going to talk about the one that just blew my socks off, that I just absolutely fell in love with, and that is Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller. If you haven't heard what this book is about, it's about twins who are in their early 50s, and they live at home with their mother in the English countryside in a small cottage. One of the twins, Julius, takes odd jobs like, helping move furniture or helping with, construction or renovations and that kind of thing. He doesn't have like a full-time job. And the other twin, Jeannie, stays home with their elderly mother, and they raise plants and things. They have like chickens and they have a garden, and they sell some of their produce to like the local like deli and that kind of thing. So they're of minimal means, but they live happily in this cottage, and the novel starts when their 70-something-year-old mother dies. And what happens is we quickly realize how ill-equipped Julius and Jeannie are to live in the world at large. Their lives were so insular, so isolated, that they don't really seem to know how things work when it comes to like the burial of their mother, getting death certificates, things that we know have to happen. They don't seem to understand the things we need to do, the things you need to do, and how to navigate the system. And it follows the aftermath of this death. I don't want to give away too much of the plot, but essentially the premise and how the plot unfolds is based on the fact that they don't really seem to know how to navigate the world. They don't even have a bank account. Their mother kept money in a tin on a shelf. It was a nice, quiet story. It did build towards things. Just when you think something else can't happen to these twins, something else would. And they keep getting kind of thrown for loops. So there was like a tension and a steady build over the course of the novel. But at its core, it's a very quiet story. The characters were very believable, fully formed, interesting, and the setting was very rich and very present. It had a very strong sense of like the land and a sense of place, which is something that really draws me into books. So beautiful writing, great characters, quiet story, rich setting. If that sounds like something you'd like, I highly, highly recommend Unsettled Ground. The next book I'm not going to say too much about because I have an entire reading vlog. I will link, but I read Slaughterhouse-Five. I should say I reread Slaughterhouse-Five. This was part of a project I'm doing this year where I am retrying books that I previously didn't like or have DNF'd. Sorry, mosquito. I have read Slaughterhouse-Five before, and I just didn't get on with it. I liked it a lot more this time. I'm never going to love it. I just don't think... I don't know about Kurt Vonnegut's other books, so I don't know if this is his style in general or if it was just this book, but I just didn't get on with the writing style and the way that the story was very fragmented, and I didn't feel like you really get into the character's head to the depth that I want to. But I appreciated it so much more, and I could see better what Vonnegut was accomplishing, and I think it's a very smart, witty book, just not my particular type of book. The last two books I read for different readathons. So the first one was for SpringAThon, and it was Two Trees Make a Forest by Jessica J. Lee. I liked this overall, but to be honest, I really thought I would love it. It just sounded like everything I wanted in a memoir about nature and family. So it came up a little bit short for me, but I still liked it. I just didn't fall in love like I wanted to. So the author explores her family's history, her grandparents' history more so. They were immigrants from Taiwan, and she really talks about the times that she went to Taiwan. She was raised in Canada, and all of the parts that were about her family's history and why they emigrated and kind of the struggles they had, her going through old like letters and journal entries and finding out things about her grandparents that she hadn't known and learning more about their thoughts and feelings, which they kind of kept bottled up. All of those parts I really enjoyed a lot. The family history and memoir part was what really made me like the book. Where it fell short for me was the nature writing. So, like I said, she goes back to Taiwan and she really tries to connect to it, and I guess also to her grandparents through the landscape of Taiwan. And the author is an environmental historian, I think is her title, something like that. And so obviously she's very into ecology and the environment and landscapes and the history of those things. And so she talks a lot about the history of people trying to categorize and catalog all the plants on Taiwan, and she talks about different hiking excursions and things she does on Taiwan to try to learn about the botanical landscape and learn about the country in that way. And the nature writing just, I just didn't gel with it. I didn't think it was as strong as the family portions. So liked it, but because of the nature writing, I didn't love it. And the last book that I read, I actually technically finished the 1st of June, but I read most of it in May, and that was for May of the Moderns, and I have this, and it is A Passage to India by E.M. Forster. This was my first Forster, but it definitely won't be the last. I really enjoyed the writing. This was written in the mid-20s, and I think it's set around the same time in British-run India. So I read this for the prompt end of empire, but there are a lot of other things going on in this book. But the main thing is it's kind of a social commentary on what was happening in India at the time under British rule. I'm hesitant to say much about this because the main drive in terms of plot and how the characters react to that doesn't really kick off until almost halfway through the book, maybe 40% of the way through the book. And it was something that happened that really kind of threw me for a loop, and I don't want to ruin that kind of reading experience for something else. So I'll just say that an incident happens which really kind of pits the British and Indian people against each other in a way, or to take sides, and really examines the power structures and the imbalances at play, and racism, of course, is in here. And I just thought it was a really interesting look at this specific time and place in history, and looking at it through this lens of how specifically how English women could weaponize their perceived fragility. And there's a lot in here about how the English women who came with their husbands to India made things potentially even worse for the local Indian population than the men who originally colonized the place did, to an extent. But yeah, I found this endlessly fascinating, and I thought the writing was really beautiful, but I didn't get as rich of a sense of India as I was hoping to get. But in terms of the characters and the socio-cultural, all of those big picture issues really came through. So this was a great way to end my reading month. So those were the books that I read in May. If you read any of them, I would love to know your opinions. Please comment below. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.